One man and two fallen angels stood on the barren desert plains of Iraq. They were standing a safe 2 miles away from the excavation area of the great ziggurat of Ur, Mesopotamia's capital for many dynasties. Just like it had been in Mexico, Dean felt the excitement of seeing history, the eagerness to explore the secrets hidden in those ruins already searched through his body. He touched the watch in his pocket. The artifact was begging him to open the lid and stare into the fascinating inner workings. Yet he resisted. Merlice had warned him back then. It was dangerous for mortals to be in contact with supernatural creations as powerful as the watch. That temple has been buried for centuries. No gods could still be residing there. Merlice voices doubts at the watcher's choice. Temples are not the residences of gods, Lucifer. They are the places where mortals contact them. Very well. Where are their gods if not in a temple? What did you say again, Dean? Azazel referred to the speech the occultist had held after reading the Sumerian lore prior to their journey to the next location. The Enuma Elish had proven tricky since it had been discovered only recently, and translations, especially useful ones, were rare. Fortunately, Dean still had ties with the upper class of Britain, giving him access to new discoveries by British archaeologists. The Sumerians thought their gods to live in the literal heaven. It's how I made sense of it, yes. Azazel's eyes showed a satisfied glint as he put together the facts with his mindset. Magic as protection from heaven, earth, and hell. The watcher muttered under his breath, the eyes fixed on something invisible in the sky above the temple. We are no tacticians, mate. Care to enlighten us? There was only one way to not draw any attention from anyone. A realm inside a realm, mid-air and undetected due to strong magic. A finger pointed triumphantly at the empty sky. How do we get there? Dean wondered, albeit the answer already dawned on him. I need to get to the top to find the entrance. I'm sure it is somewhere there. Those archaeologists will never let us onto the ruins. We are lucky if we are allowed at the excavation area around it. That's nothing to get worked up about, Dean. All we need is the cover of night and a distraction. Not Dean nor Merlice argued with the watcher's opinion on how to proceed. Dean drew a summoning circle into the dry dust. I assume you have an idea, Azazel stated while observing the occultist working his magic. I don't want to harm anyone. We just need some time where they don't pay attention to the ruin. You're summoning elemental spirits. Dean smiled. He had waited for a long time to try that. Placing his hand on the ground, the circle glowed faintly blue. When the light died down again, it revealed dozens of different animals made of crystal clear blue ice. The elementals would not be bound too long. As soon as the ice would have melted, they would return to their place of origin. Off you go. Have some fun. The creatures seemed at once to know what to do, jumping into every direction. It didn't take long until guards, professors, and workers ran around in sleepy confusion. Dean saw a wolf howl right next to a tent at the top of its lungs. Somewhere else, a band of raccoons stole the people's pillow, blankets, shoes, and food, practically everything they got their icy paws on. A stag used its antlers lifting tents from the ground, and an alligator sneaked through the shadows with a sinister hissing sound. Some men tried desperately to keep their belongings, while others ran frantically to find safe haven. The guards were no exception to the amusing madness. Dean looked at Merlice, who watched with the joy of mischievousness. The man himself couldn't prevent a smile. The elementals were, after all, harmless in their intent. Azazel grinned faintly upon observing the kind of ridiculous amusement his friends indulged in. Come, time to hurry, he said, spreading his wings. Reaching the top of what seemed to be a rectangularly building buried by tons of dirt and sand, Azazel took a good look. You think you can find it? Dean asked the watcher. They were scared and in a hurry. They certainly used a simple spell to conceal their refuge. He fell silent again. thinking. But of course. Dean, I need the blood. Giving Azazel the vial, the watcher proceeded by saying something in a strange language. The tone indicated it was some kind of incantation. The same words were repeated while the angel paced around on the roof. "What is he saying?" he asked his supernatural friend. "Some Enochian spell demanding entrance." "It's the language of angels," Marilis answered, smoking a cigarette. "It sounds beautiful," Dean remarked. At one point the blood in the vial started to give off a faint reddish glow. Still speaking the words, Azazel moved into the direction in which the glow became stronger. Finding the right spot, he poured the red liquid onto the ground. "Are you sure you trust him?" Marilis asked when Dean held him back. "I'm sure he knows what he does." The incantation had stopped, and the moment the blood touched the ground, a large circle started to glow beneath their feet. Dean looked towards the camp. The ruckus was starting to die down. As if drawn with ink on paper, lines of white golden light revealed ornaments similar to those Dean often enough saw in the decorations of the church. All the lines met simultaneously in the middle, opening a portal in the ground. Azazel gestured for them to come and stepped through. Dean's sense of logic told him they would have ended up below the portal on the other side, but his world was turned upside down when he stepped into the white light, and his fall down suddenly turned into a fall up. The other two caught him when he lost footing and orientation and threatened to fall back through it to the other side. As soon as everyone had passed, the light faded, leaving them in a dusty, windy room. The man wanted to summon his fire elemental to see, but like it had been in the dungeon, the magical spark refused to do his bidding. "It's drenched in the essence of Nephilim magic. Angel magic," Azazel explained, seeing Dean's failed attempt. "Humans cannot access the magical essence of angels." "But it worked in hell. It worked in Death's realm." Dean replied distraught at the thought of being useless again. "I can only guess," Azazel continued, "but Death is an entity even God can't influence. His workings are truly mysterious. Perhaps he wanted you to have access. And hell was not made of the divine essence of angels. It's just another realm, like Earth, inhabited by supernatural beings." "I like the idea of that," Marilis added. "Perhaps I should infuse hell with demon magic like Izanagi and Izanami did." "Don't forget to add me to your guest list," Dean uttered. He felt a bit grumpy at the circumstances. "Here." Azazel created an orb of moonlight, handing it to Dean. "Thanks." Abstract ornaments and paintings decorated the walls. Some showed lions and horses and archers, with attire typical for Sumerians. Others showed forms and images made in the same fashion as the circle around the portal had been. The transition between the two styles was fluent and mixed in some places. Exiting the small circular room with the low ceiling, they entered a hallway. Dean saw the occasional beast among their artwork, reminding him of the Nephilim he'd seen in hell. The figures were depicted fighting or slain by winged humans. None of them was like the others. One had claws and wings, walking on all fours. Another had the head of a bird, two tails, and a humanoid body as large as a tree. The occultist was lost in the mysterious images that had come to life through the many colors. He felt someone suddenly drag him back by the scruff of his linen shirt, pressing him to the wall. It was just in time. For the next moment, a trap displaying metal spears shot out of the left and slammed into the right wall. Dean's heart struggled to beat for a moment when the realization hit. "Thanks." "No problem, mate." A clap on the shoulder followed the words. "Why would anyone place such traps in his own bloody home?" "You don't," Azazel answered, trying to figure out the mindset of the one living in those ruins. "Traps are meant to keep something away, after all, like a tomb or a treasure. This is neither a bloody tomb nor a treasure." When gaping darkness greeted them ahead of the next threshold, Dean let the orb float inside. It was a dead end. Dean set one foot into the room, only to quickly step back again. A shower of fire came from above, almost scorching his hair. Bloody hell, Merlice uttered, scratching his head. Is that hellfire? I don't know, Azazel answered. Too late did he launch forward to prevent Merlice from finding out. Examining his unharmed hand, the devil grinned. It's not. Lovely. Stepping through the curtain of fire, he looked for the mechanism on the other side. Just give me... Ouch! The sound of something stabbing flesh let Dean's pulse quicken. Merlice? Fine. I'm fine, mate. Something made of stone was smashed to pieces. The sound was followed by another curse through the raging flames. Blasted. Azazel looked a bit uneasy, but the trauma of being chained by burning iron prevented him from following. Dean could see it in the Watcher's eyes. Where the blood... Ah! Found it! Merlice's explanation was accompanied by the shattering of something glassy. At once the flames ceased, revealing a broken crystal on the ground. They use crystals as a source of magic. More storage than a source, but yes. Azazel corrected the occultist upon examining the shards. Merlice was just pulling arrows out of his left shoulder and arm. A cut showed on his face where another one had narrowly missed him. The hole in the wall marked the location of the now harmless trap. This was close, Merlice. You ought to be careful. Dean scolded his friend, for he presumed the weapons to be made of a material harmful to angels. His guess was proven affirmative when the wounds didn't heal instantly. I told you. Fine, he answered through grinding teeth, as Azazel was at once examining the room. I'm certain there's some kind of mechanism here that requires clever thinking. What's that? Dean wiped the dust from the wall in the back, revealing black symbols and the formation of letters and words in a sentence. It's Enochian. Merlice came closer to read and translate the inscription. The black fire devours the dove. When the moon turns red and the sun turns cold, when your wings are cut by the ones above, and taken what most close to your heart you hold. What is it the empty heart longs for? What is it the black fire burns for? It's a riddle. Dean stated the obvious, feeling foolish about it. Whoever wrote it had a lot of time, Merlice added dryly. I'm not very good at solving riddles, Azazel admitted with an apologetic tone. Dean looked at the lines as if the hidden meaning would come out on its own. Asking Merlice to translate again, he used the wall as a chalkboard. Azazel was trying to help to his best ability, but his thinking wasn't made for poetical symbolism. And Merlice had read a great deal of works, yet his suggestions let one assume he had slept through the whole period of Romanticism. It was Dean who put two and two together after thinking deep and hard. The meaning came after he had scribbled fragments of thoughts relentlessly on the sides around the poem. In the end, he felt absurd for not realizing it sooner, especially when thinking about who their enemy was. It's vengeance. Dean looked at the wall, somehow expecting it to move, yet the path ahead remained closed. Perhaps one of you needs to say it in Enochian, the man suggested to his two friends. It sounded just as strangely beautiful as before when Azazel spoke the word. Like a melody, it echoed through the room. The wall did indeed move, and the language the malevolent probably used themselves sounded with the right answer. Crumbling rock moved to reveal yet another dark hallway. I wonder how anyone can enter with all these traps, Dean, who expected another unforeseen danger, uttered. I assume those familiar with their home might know about a back door we've missed. Merlice answered with a voice devoid of enthusiasm. Dean looked at Azazel for confirmation. The master tactician only nodded in agreement. Off we go. The devil encouraged them and went ahead, lighting a cigarette. They had scarcely entered when the crashing sound of rock behind them let the blood freeze in Dean's veins. His heart started to send adrenaline coursing through his body when the scraping of rock sounded from above, announcing the descent of the ceiling. There was no exit to be seen ahead. This tunnel could have gone on for miles and they would be crushed before ever reaching the end. "We have to be quick here," Azazel sat next to Dean while he suddenly turned into a strange creature with blue fur and feathers, covered in scars from ancient times. "I'm faster than you in this form, Lucifer." "Do you want to carry the both of us?" Myrelias countered with sarcasm. "I would ask you to turn into a mouse. I'm sure Dean has a pocket for you." Dean could see the devil's reluctancy at such a plan, but the ceiling came closer and time was running out. "You're not going to eat me, I hope?" "It wouldn't help me to die with a full stomach," Azazel answered with calm cunningness. "Fair enough." The devil crushed the fresh cigarette with his hand. Still glowing, it dropped to the ground. "Damn shame to waste it like this, you know that?" he said with a gesture at the tobacco and turned into a mouse. Dean quickly picked him up and thrust him into his breast pocket. "Hey, careful, mate." But the annoyed outburst was ignored. Azazel had Dean already in his sharp talons and spread his night blue wings. The moment the Watcher pushed himself forward into flight, Dean got the notion of standing on the roof of a train at full speed, although it was a lot faster than a train at full speed, taking away his breath. Feet of rocky ground and walls rushed past them, urging Dean to close his eyes. It wasn't before he felt something jerk at Azazel's right arm that he looked again. Another jerk followed when something hit the Watcher's left wing, sending blood flying through the air. Azazel clenched his teeth but kept ignoring the wounds. And still the ceiling came closer, causing Dean to feel how he was slowly crushed to death already. "There's another one coming, mate," the mouse yelled from Dean's pocket. He was sticking out his head to see. The occultist concentrated on the dark in front of them upon the warning. The glint of a sharply curved blade like a claw came quickly closer. If it moved or if it was only their speed that caused it to rapidly draw closer, Dean couldn't tell. Azazel tried to dodge it, but the first 5 inches still ripped through the flesh on his right shoulder. The Englishman felt the angel's blood run down the arm, soaking Dean's shirt. The ceiling was now halfway down, forcing Azazel to go deeper, and Dean to drag his feet close to his body. "I'm not sure we will make it," he called out as panic took over. "Almost there, Dean." The Watcher spoke as calm as always with the cold, focused undertone. Ignoring another blade that would have hit Dean if not for his protector, he could see they were coming closer to a light in the distance. Before Dean could fear or think, Azazel let go of him. He hit the hard ground unprepared, whereupon a sharp pain shot through his ankle. Somewhere in front of him, Azazel crash-landed, sliding a few feet due to the enormous speed he'd been forced to use in flight. For a moment no one moved as the dust settled and the dull sound from behind informed them about the ceiling having met the floor. His breath went heavily, while the shock of a brush with death still sat in his bones. Myrelias was already making for freedom, changing back and dusting off his clothes. Dean was surprised when his friend went to the Watcher, visibly worried. "Are you alright, mate?" "I'm well enough," Azazel uttered between 2 heavy breaths. A red trail marked where he had hit and slid over the ground. Dean saw the blood on his wings and arms from the vicious blades. One had even hit the side of his thigh. Shedding his demonic-looking disguise, the Watcher got up. "You should try to heal your wounds before we move on." Myrelias kept talking while helping Dean to his feet. "We don't have time for that. We need our strength for more pressing matters." Azazel fixed them with a warrior's stare, as intense as Mochizuki's had been. Dean would have thought it better to listen to Myrelias, but Azazel was already moving on. "Can you walk?" the devil asked, still in the same worried tone. Dean hobbled slightly, trying to ignore the pain. "I'll have to," he laughed softly. The laugh turned into a cry of pain when Myrelias used his powers to set the broken ankle straight again with a crunching sound. "Right, I completely forgot. Thanks." His friend gave him a crooked grin as reply. The little chamber they had frantically fled into joined into a larger one. Torches were lit all around, sharing their warm light. The walls were all of the same sandy color and decorated with colorless engravings of angelic fashion. The large cavern made more the impression of a throne room. In the center there was a pool of clear water mirroring the ceiling, showing the image of a star-shaped ideogram. Dean remembered to have seen it in the Sumerian lore. It was the Digia, the symbol of the gods. The sight, however, was anything but godly. Around the lake in the middle, along the circular wall of the room, there were 7 thrones. Each throne harbored the inscription of a Nephilim's name. The largest one belonged to Anu, the highest of the gods in the Enuma Elish. The other ones were Enlil, Enki, Nana, Utu, Inanna, and Ninhursag, and each of the thrones was occupied by the skeleton of a Nephilim, all except Inanna's. They all sat on their respective throne as if they had died, sitting and in peace. Looks like someone went on a killing spree once their plan was rejected, Maralice commented whereupon Azazel examined the bones. Dean saw him reach out to touch the dead, but he stopped amidst his movement. He stared at the empty sockets for a moment, then closed his eyes as if in grief and drew back. "They are all dead," was all he could say. Inanna killed her own kind. The Watcher clenched one of his fists, the eyes showing the fires of anger. Why would she do that? "Why don't we ask her?" Maralice answered from in front of the pool. Dean stepped next to the devil. "A mirror! It's another entrance. That's what I assume, because..." He dipped one hand into the water and pulled it back up. "It feels strangely dry for being beneath the water's surface." Like the last time, Maralice was the first to go. Dean felt uneasy about letting him go alone and went to follow. He turned to see Azazel standing frozen in place. "Are you coming?" "I am coming." There was a strange note in the Watcher's voice. What was he thinking?